When I went out for a meal, I saw a waitress being cursed and extorted for money. I couldn't stand it and spoke up for her. When she saw me arguing on her behalf, she just kept her head down. Later, my boyfriend couldn't stand it either and said something. Suddenly, she looked up with red eyes. "Senior, thank you for speaking up for me. Can I invite you to a meal tomorrow?" I didn't say anything. I just waited for the manager to come and asked if I could be a witness since the surveillance was broken. I shook my head. "Sorry, I was just having my meal with my head down and didn't see it." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I went out for a meal with my boyfriend on the weekend. The waitress who came to serve the dishes at the next table didn't hold the plate steady. A piece of watermelon fell on the child at the next table. The child's mother exploded immediately. "Are you a fool?" Realizing that she had caused trouble, the waitress stood there helplessly and kept apologizing. She looked familiar to me. Then I remembered that she was a junior who had just joined our student union. I couldn't help but pay more attention to her. But the child's parents didn't buy it at all. They demanded that the junior pay $5,000 in compensation. The junior's face turned pale, and she kept explaining that the accident happened because the child had been jumping on the sofa. But this didn't calm the parents down. Instead, it further ignited their anger. "You mean it's my son's fault? Is this the level of service in your store? You must apologize to my son and pay for the compensation." The junior's eyes turned red with sadness. Then she saw me and looked at me like I was her last hope. "Ma'am, you saw it, right? Can you be a witness for me?" She looked at me pleadingly. After all, she was a junior from our school and in the same department as me. Naturally, I couldn't refuse. I nodded. I didn't see the whole thing, but when this waitress was serving the dishes, I did hear her remind the child not to keep jumping. It was a bit dangerous. When I spoke up, the child's parents immediately turned their anger on me. "What are you saying for this bitch? Are you also a bitch? Don't I know what my child is like? You poor thing came here to have a meal on purpose. You're showing off." I was angry when I heard her words. I was just about to tell her to check the surveillance. Out of my peripheral vision, I saw that the junior relaxed when she saw that the parents had turned their face to me. Then she retreated to the corner and stopped talking. My heart sank, and I had no intention of speaking up for her anymore. Just then, my boyfriend came back after paying the bill. When he saw that the atmosphere was wrong, he asked me in a low voice what had happened. After hearing the whole story, he was also angry. My girlfriend just answered a question politely. "Please don't attack her personally. If you speak rudely to my girlfriend again, I'll call the police." I also know that the waitress has already apologized and offered to compensate. "Why are you pushing your luck?" I don't know if it was my imagination. When she saw the coat that my boyfriend picked up from the sofa and the watch on his wrist, the waitress suddenly reacted. My eyes turned cold, and I immediately pulled my boyfriend. Since she didn't appreciate my help, I wasn't going to flatter her. Carl picked up the phone I left on the table and handed it to me. "I've paid the bill. It's $2,400. I nodded and was about to leave. Suddenly, a voice came from behind. "Senior, thank you for speaking up for me. Can I invite you to a meal tomorrow?" The junior who had been standing behind and acting like it had nothing to do with her suddenly stood up again. She was pinching the hem of her apron with both hands, and her eyes were red with gratitude as she looked at Carl beside me. I smiled. If it hadn't been for what happened just now, I might have believed her. What was this? I had spoken up for her and got into trouble because of it. But she didn't even thank me. But when my boyfriend just defended me and casually advised the other party, she wanted to invite him to a meal. Carl turned his head and was polite but distant. "Are you also a student of University A?" The girl nodded and didn't even give me a glance. "Is it okay?" "Senior, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I don't know how I would have been bullied today." Hearing this, Carl just refused coldly. "No need. I didn't say much to help you." I was a bit annoyed, but I didn't say anything to make things difficult for her. I just realized that I had misjudged her and helped the wrong person. But I didn't expect that we would be stopped again just as we were about to leave the door. "Wait, Senior." The girl chased after us. She was holding a small box in her hand. Without asking, she tried to stuff the dessert in her hand into Carl's hand. When he realized what she was doing, Carl frowned and dodged her touch. His voice was also annoyed. "No need. I didn't speak up for you. The one you should thank is my girlfriend." Hearing this, the girl paused slightly. Then she looked at me with a strange look in her eyes. Finally, she handed the box to me. "Thank you. If the senior doesn't want it, then here you are." Looking at her insincere thanks, I looked at her with a sarcastic smile. Before I knew it, the apron she was wearing was gone. At this moment, she was wearing a work uniform skirt, and she had a good figure and a delicate face. When I thought about the amount of the bill that Carl mentioned when he came over, I understood. But the girl didn't give up and chased after us, grabbing Carl. "Hey, senior, the dormitory access control is on now. If you want to go in, you can come with me later. I'm familiar with the security uncle. I usually go back at this time when I'm working part-time. He will let us in." She didn't even mention me. Carl took a step back and distanced himself from her. "No need. We have a house outside and won't go back to the school." When she heard this, she seemed even more excited. "Then you should add me on some platform. I've already given a gift to your girlfriend to thank her. I haven't thanked you yet." Just then, the manager of the store also chased after us. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. When we went to the backstage to deal with the accident, we found that the camera in that place was broken. You were the only table of guests dining nearby. Can you be a witness?" Hearing this, I laughed. "Sorry, manager. I was just having my meal with my head down and didn't see it." The girl who had thought she didn't have to pay the compensation panicked. "How could this be? I didn't say anything. I was just having my meal." Seeing my attitude, the manager, who was a shrewd person, immediately understood. I regarded this as a small episode and didn't take it to heart. At that time, I thought we wouldn't have any more intersections. But I was soon proven wrong. After returning to school, I got busy. I didn't have time to meet Carl for over a week. It was Saturday, and I finally had time to meet Carl. Carl and I were in the same grade. We met by accident when we took the wrong dress bag backstage at a freshman evening party. I didn't expect to be with Carl. After all, Carl's family conditions were completely different from mine. Our social circles were also very different. Plus, we were from different majors and departments. If it hadn't been for this accident, we almost wouldn't have known each other. My family was in the foreign trade business, and the business was quite big. Carl was a local. His parents ran a barber shop at the school gate. Because their skills weren't very good, the business hadn't been doing well. It was even on the verge of closing down some time ago. Out of the intention to help, I recharged $100,000 into the card of their barber shop, with an additional $100,000 in working capital. The pressure on their family was relieved, and the shop was saved. I didn't want to see Carl worried about these things. These money meant nothing to me. I just treated it as if I had spent it for myself. When I went to their shop, I saw a familiar figure. The junior from that day was in the shop. When she saw me, she just glanced at me and then acted as if she didn't know me and didn't say anything. Naturally, I wasn't going to greet her either. I just asked Carl what was going on when I saw him. When I mentioned that girl, Carl's expression didn't change. She might have been fired because of what happened that day. Our shop has been hiring recently, and she just came to apply for the job. You know, my parents are in charge of the shop. She had already started working when I found out. Hearing this, I nodded. Indeed, Carl never interfered with the shop run by his parents. He only came to the shop when I came. He was usually quite busy and didn't come to the shop often. I had a meal with Carl and then went home. I didn't care about that girl working part-time in Carl's family's shop. After all, what could be stolen was never mine. Besides, I was the investor of the studio that Carl opened. I usually go home on weekends. After class on Friday, I went to Carl's parents' barber shop to have my hair washed. After I finished washing my hair, I was told that there was no money left in my card. I had recharged $100,000. And I hadn't been here many times. But now they told me there was no money left. I frowned and looked at the girl behind the cashier. Sandra. I saw Sandra's name on the student union work ID later. When she heard my question, she looked at me with disdain, but still smiled and looked at me. "Sorry, ma'am, there's no balance in your card. How do you plan to pay?" When she saw that I wanted to take out my phone and call Carl, she sneered and snatched my phone. "Ma'am, people need to have some self-respect. How can you have the nerve to ask Carl's parents to add $100,000 to your card without recharging a single penny?" I laughed. It seemed that she was the culprit. She thought that I didn't pay a penny and just asked Carl for the money in my card. So she directly cleared the balance in my card. I wasn't angry but laughed instead. Are you so sure that I didn't recharge $100,000 with real money? When she heard this, she seemed to have heard a joke. I'm a staff member of this shop now. I have the obligation to safeguard the interests of the shop. I won't spoil someone like you who just reaches out for something for nothing. The money Carl has was earned by himself. Do you know how hard he works for the studio alone? She raised her head slightly and faced me with her chin. She stood behind the cashier with an unyielding look, looking at her confidence that I didn't know where it came from. I didn't want to argue with a fool. I looked around the shop. Carl's parents weren't there. I directly used the phone in the shop to call Carl. I didn't know how Carl explained it. I only had one request, which was to make Sandra apologize to me. I don't know what Carl said. Soon, Sandra ran out with red eyes. When she saw me still standing in the shop, she gave me a fierce glare and then ran out directly. Carl also followed out. When he saw me, he rubbed his temples wearily. Teresa, I'm sorry. You've been wronged. I raised my eyebrows. You don't need to apologize to me. You didn't do it. I just want the culprit to apologize to me. I wouldn't give up the apology I deserve just because she cried a few times. Hearing this, Carl looked a bit embarrassed. Teresa, for my sake, just let it go. Sandra didn't know the situation at first, but after all, she was trying to safeguard the interests of the shop. When I heard this, I also got a cold face. Is it too much for me to ask for an apology? You're my boyfriend. Why are you apologizing to me on someone else's behalf? After saying this, I walked away without looking back. But that night, I still received Sandra's apology. It was just a short text message that said, I'm sorry. I didn't care either. From that day on, Carl seemed to be a bit cold when chatting with me. I didn't pay much attention and still went home as originally planned. When I got home, I found that there was a new person in the group of our mutual friends. It was Carl who added her. I privately messaged Carl and asked, what's going on? He took a long time to reply. It was a voice message. I clicked to play it. It was a bit noisy on the other end. And there was a girl's voice faintly asking something. It's the girl who just started working part-time in my family's shop. My parents want old customers to recharge their cards and plan to hold some activities. They said that girl is my classmate and that college students know more. So they asked me to add her as a friend. There are many customers who recharge their cards in that group of ours. So I added her to the group. His voice was calm, but I vaguely felt that something was wrong. Yet I couldn't tell what it was. Most of the people in that group were my high school friends. Although they also went to university in this city, they weren't from our school. Because of me, when they came to visit me, they also recharged their cards in Carl's family's barber shop. Some recharged $5,000, and some recharged $10,000. I sent a goodnight emoticon and then went to sleep. I drove on the highway to get home today and was a bit tired. When I woke up the next day and looked at my phone, I was instantly so angry that I laughed. Last night, Sandra changed the name of our group overnight. The group name that was originally, If We Become Wealthy, We Won't Forget Each Other, was changed to Sandra's Exclusive Fan Group. And that girl also changed her nickname to Senior's Capable Little Assistant. That's me, Sandra. Hello, everyone. I heard from Carl's mother that you are all big customers of our shop. Sandra is here to give benefits to all the big customers. She then sent the promotional activities of the shop. Finally, she marked everyone and asked them to come and recharge their cards for the discount. She was the only one who didn't mark me. My best friend Vicky privately messaged me in the middle of the night and sent more than a dozen messages in a row. What's going on? Sister, who did your boyfriend add? She's so strange. Who's her fan? So shameless. Sister is going to vomit. Sister is going to quit the group. Hey, sister, are you dead asleep? Why aren't you talking? Hurry up and kick that green tea out. Most of the people in the group were my good friends. Sandra's coquettish operation directly left us all speechless. I found Carl's number and called him directly. Carl probably hadn't looked at his phone either. When he heard my description, he was at a loss for words for a moment. Sorry, Teresa. I'll ask her to leave the group. I didn't know what Carl said to Sandra. When I finished washing up and looked at my phone, the group name had been changed back. That girl also left the group. After this incident, I seriously expressed my attitude towards this matter to Carl. Knowing that I was a bit angry, Carl also knew he was in the wrong and said he would find me on Monday. Since he admitted his mistake with a good attitude, I didn't say anything more. But when I went to Carl's family's barbershop on Monday, Carl's parents looked at me in a strange way. Carl's mother was lying on Sandra's leg, asking her to pluck out her white hair. Sandra didn't stop her hands and kept chatting with Carl's mother. She had a sweet smile on her face. Carl's mother must have been very satisfied with Sandra's performance. From the fact that everyone in the shop was busy except Sandra, I could tell. However, when Sandra saw me coming in, her eyes instantly turned red. Then she lowered her head and stopped chatting with Carl's mother. I seriously suspected that she had pink eye. Her eyes turned red at every turn. There were also several barbers in the shop. When they saw this awkward scene, they gradually stopped chatting. Carl's mother then saw me coming in. "Teresa, are you here to wash your hair?" I nodded. "Yeah, I'm going to watch a movie with Carl later." When she heard that I was going to watch a movie with Carl, Sandra couldn't sit still. She pulled Carl's mother's skirt. Carl's mother patted her hand to reassure her. The two of them looked at each other. And then Carl's mother came over and took my hand. "Okay, then lie over there." I sent a message to Carl saying that I had arrived. And then I lay down, waiting for someone in the shop to wash my hair. But I soon realized that something was wrong. It was Sandra who was going to wash my hair. She picked up the shower head and directly aimed it at my head without testing the water temperature. Then, her hand tilted, and the shower head directly aimed at my face. Remembering that I had just put on makeup, I instinctively wanted to stop her. However, it was too late. She quickly held me down and directly sprayed water on my face. I stood up, looking at the gloating and triumphant look in her eyes. I directly raised my hand and slapped her. The crisp sound of the slap shocked everyone in the shop. Sandra reacted and screamed as she was about to rush over and hit me. I dodged quickly, looking at Carl's mother who was standing not far away, looking stunned and not reacting yet. I immediately understood what was going on. She had taken a fancy to Sandra on Carl's behalf. She wanted to give me a warning. She had always thought that the money I recharged was earned by Carl. She thought that Carl was worried that if he gave the money to his family directly, they wouldn't accept it. So he recharged the card in my name. She had always had a lot of opinions about me and thought that I was mooching off their family. "Mrs. Carl, don't you think what you're doing is a bit too much?" At this moment, my hair was wet, and my makeup was a bit smudged. I was in a very embarrassing state, but I wasn't afraid at all. Carl's mother reacted and rushed over to see if Sandra was hurt. When she saw the slap mark on Sandra's face, she felt very heartbroken. She looked at me with no good expression. "Get out of here. You're not welcome here. Break up with my son. I've long been unhappy with you. You're just trying to cheat my son's money." Sandra was protecting the interests of me and my husband. The card that was emptied was originally recharged with my son's money. "You have the nerve to force Sandra to apologize to you." I didn't say anything and looked coldly at Carl who had just rushed in. Meeting my gaze, Carl instinctively dodged it. When he saw the slap mark on Sandra's face, his expression also changed. "Teresa, did you hit her?" His eyes changed from dodging to blaming. I was so angry that I laughed. As my boyfriend, the first thing he saw wasn't me, who was all wet, but the mark on Sandra's face. Who is his girlfriend? I wondered. When I saw that he instinctively wanted to touch Sandra's face, I realized that something was wrong. "Have you been chatting with her for over a week?" My tone was a bit sarcastic and not very pleasant. Hearing this, Carl also got angry. He kicked a chair heavily. "Have you had enough of making a fuss? Stop being suspicious all day long. Apologize." Everyone in the shop stopped what they were doing. The sound of the hairdryer that had been ringing stopped. Everyone looked over, but no one said anything to help me out. I didn't know what Sandra had told them, but everyone looked at me with a hint of pleasure at my misfortune. My boyfriend, who used to be very close to me, had become someone who embarrassed me. He wanted me to apologize to someone without finding out the truth. Looking at his angry appearance, I suddenly felt that this person in front of me was a bit strange. "Carl, don't you forget that I saved your family's shop. I don't expect your family to be grateful, but how can you just watch your mother and others bully me? Do you think this is appropriate?" When the other people in the shop heard this, several employees secretly looked at Carl's expression. Carl naturally felt it too. Carl looked at me coldly and clenched his fists tightly. There was no tenderness in his eyes when he looked at me. Without my parents' skills, do you think you can revive a shop just with that little money you gave? I didn't care about your unreasonable behavior before, but do you look down on my parents like this? Or do you really think that people came to recharge their cards because of you? Stop taking everything upon yourself. How much face do you think you have? My parents' shop survived because of their ability. They deserve it. I was really so angry that I laughed. It seemed that he had a lot of resentment towards me. I casually picked up a towel and wrapped my hair, remembering that a friend had told me that he wanted to open a barber shop here. I suddenly wasn't angry anymore. At that time, they didn't come to squeeze into the market because of me. Now that Carl's family thought they had the ability, let them compete fairly. I wanted to see if Carl still had time to pursue his dream, to learn what he liked. I wondered if his studio, which had just started to improve, could still go on. After all, Carl's parents had really poor business acumen. With these thoughts in mind, I turned around and left without hesitation. I could still hear Sandra's voice behind me. Auntie, it's okay. We have many big customers with recharge cards in our shop. Even without her recharging, there will still be many customers, and the friends of Senior will definitely come to support us. You don't know, do you? Senior has opened a studio and is making a lot of money. Obviously, she thought that my social circle was Carl's social circle, and Carl didn't chase after me either. I guessed that he thought the same way. After breaking up with Carl, I deleted all his contact information. I also asked him to return all the things I had bought for him. Carl didn't meet me and asked someone to send the things over, including the watch Carl wore and the coat he had on in the shop that time. After being with Carl, I never let him buy any clothes by himself. All the clothes and jewelry were bought by me for him, so there were several big bags of clothes in front of me. My best friend Vicky was so angry when she heard the reason for our breakup that she was jumping up and down. I thought Carl was a good guy before. I didn't expect him to be a freeloader. Disgusting. Good riddance. Sister will throw a few feasts to celebrate. I was amused by her. I was having a singles party, while Carl was in deep trouble. There was no other reason. His game studio needed to pay the rent and other expenses for the next quarter. In order to retain talent, he had lured people from other studios with high salaries. So he also faced the pressure of paying his employees' salaries, adding up the employees' salaries and daily expenses. The money he had earned in the past year was not enough at all. But what did it have to do with me? I didn't expect that Carl and Sandra were together. Sandra publicly announced her relationship with Carl in the student union, and she pointedly accused me of being a gold digger who had freeloaded in Carl's family's barbershop during our relationship. But the members of the student union were familiar with me. Everyone knew the real situation between me and Carl, and they just regarded her words as a joke. After becoming the official girlfriend, Sandra couldn't sit still. In our senior year, we had fewer classes. After the only class of the week, I was about to go home. Suddenly, a figure rushed in at the door. Senior Teresa, can you move out of my boyfriend's house? Sandra stood at the door and spoke timidly, but her voice was just loud enough for everyone in the classroom to hear. I looked up and looked at Sandra, who was still daydreaming. I just thought it was ridiculous. Did she think that the house I lived in outside was bought by Carl? Seeing that I didn't speak, she looked at the people in the classroom who had quieted down, bit her lip, and spoke again. I really have no choice. It's not that I'm forcing you. Carl is under a lot of pressure recently. You spent his money before, and he didn't say anything. But now that you've broken up, you have no reason to continue living in his house. Right. Move out early. I think you don't have any more classes. Come with me to pack your things now and return the key to me. The classmates who had been packing up to leave in the classroom immediately stopped what they were doing. Among them, some people looked at me with disdain after hearing Sandra's words. I thought Teresa's family was rich. It turns out she was mooching off her boyfriend. Well, now the current girlfriend has come to the door. She deserves it. Let's see what she's going to do. Haha, she had a good time living there. Can she afford to hire a moving service now? I didn't expect the real girlfriend to show her no mercy. Some people even took out their phones and secretly started recording a video from the back door. Seeing that everyone started whispering with ridicule and disdain in their voices, Sandra was overjoyed. Whose house are you talking about? Where should I move out from? Did you leave your brain at the door? Did Carl tell you that it was his house? Or are you coming here to drive me out on your own assumption? Do I, Teresa, need to mooch off my boyfriend? You'd better really prove that I lived in your boyfriend's house today. Otherwise, I'll call the police for slander and ruining my reputation. Hearing this, Sandra wasn't flustered at all. Could it be your house? Senior, did you trick my boyfriend into writing your name on the property deed? But you don't know. The actual investor is the owner of the house. Are you sure you want to continue pretending in front of me? I didn't want to waste any more words with her, but I couldn't just leave like this. If I didn't make things clear on the spot, who knew how the story would be distorted later? I borrowed my roommate's phone and called Carl. After all, he had been my boyfriend for so long, and I still remembered his phone number. When Carl heard my voice, he instinctively tried to hang up. But then he heard Sandra's voice in the background. Soon he appeared in the classroom. When Sandra saw Carl, she clung to him. Brother Carl, Sister C doesn't seem willing to return the house to you. But it's okay, I'll try to talk to her. When Carl, who had rushed over, heard her words, he instinctively paused. Then he looked at Sandra, who was holding his arm. What house? His handsome brows furrowed slightly, as if he really didn't know what Sandra was talking about. Seeing this scene, I immediately understood what was going on. Sandra had jumped to conclusions. She had come here in a hurry without confirming the situation with Carl. Did she want to kick me while I was down? Sorry. Now she was the one in a difficult situation. Carl, your girlfriend wants me to give my house to you. When are you going to find a real estate agent to look at the house and buy it from me? I didn't know about it, and I haven't listed it on any real estate website either. Hearing my sarcasm, Carl's handsome face turned red and then pale. Obviously, he also remembered that when he first met Sandra, she had heard him say that he was going back to the house instead of the school. He also realized that Sandra thought the house was his and had come here to force me to leave and see me in a bad state. With these thoughts in mind, he didn't hesitate and turned to leave. But Sandra, who didn't know the truth, didn't think so. She probably thought Carl didn't want to embarrass me, so she held Carl's arm even tighter, not giving him a chance to leave. Brother Carl, where are you going? You can persuade Teresa with me. You've been under so much pressure recently. Enough. If you want to humiliate yourself, don't drag me into it. Before Sandra could finish, Carl snapped at her. I watched them with a leisurely expression. Even if I gave Carl 100 chances, he wouldn't be able to say that the house was his. Carl was a very face-conscious person. If he lied today, it would be more painful for him to be exposed later. Sandra, who was yelled at by Carl, was stunned. What humiliation! Carl couldn't stand it anymore and shook off Sandra's hand. When did I tell you that the house was mine? After saying that, he strode away. Sandra was even more confused. She stood there, not reacting. My voice sounded at the right time. Everyone heard it. Right. The house isn't someone else's. It's mine. Please record the whole thing properly. Hearing my words, the person who had been holding a phone to record in the back withdrew the phone with a bit of embarrassment. Junior, it seems you've latched onto a fake rich guy. Right. Do you want to latch onto me? After all, I really have a house. Oh, no. I have more than one. Hee hee. Next time you try to steal someone else's partner, remember to find out the truth first. You thought you had found a gold mine, but it turned out to be something unpleasant. Right. How could Sandra not react? She pushed through the crowd and ran away without looking back. She left, but I still hadn't vented all my anger. One was an ungrateful person, and the other was someone who had tried to steal my boyfriend. I couldn't wish them a happy marriage. So I compiled a PPT about the messy story among the three of us. There was no naming names in the materials, but I directly posted it on the confession wall with my real name. Even a fool could figure out that it was about Sandra and Carl. For a while, Sandra and Carl were despised by everyone. After all, in the boring college life, everyone was very willing to hear such explosive gossip. For a while, Carl's family's barber shop was boycotted by everyone. Plus, their skills were not very good, and they often didn't have any customers even when the shop was open. My friend's barber shop opened with lightning speed, since it was opened by young people and they invited many image design teachers. The business was very booming. Carl's parents were anxious. At first, when there were no customers, they could still hold their ground. After all, they thought they still had some big customers. Unfortunately, these big customers, were all my friends. After they called my friends several times to ask them to recharge their cards and were refused. They couldn't stay calm anymore. After I told everyone that I had broken up with Carl, it was already very kind of everyone not to ask them to return the money. Of course, some people did go to ask for a refund, but they wrangled and said that the money recharged could only be spent and couldn't be refunded. I wouldn't let them have it easy either. My best friend Vicky specially drove here from the neighboring city to see me. The two of us sat next to their shop with bags of melon seeds. When I saw Carl's mother, I greeted her. "Yo, Grandma, you can still eat this morning. Is your shop about to go out of business? Why don't you quickly look for a second-hand goods group to sell things? Yo, you're still eating tea eggs. Has your son eaten? Have you paid the rent for next month? Have you paid the salaries? You don't have much of your retirement money left, do you? How many tea eggs can you afford to buy? You might as well find some eggshells in the trash to suck on for the taste." Carl's mother was so angry that she kept rolling her eyes. Her lips were trembling, but she didn't know how to refute. After all, recently Carl was too busy to take care of them. Carl's studio couldn't even last for a month. Soon, his studio closed down, and he owed a lot of debt. "Carl, are your parents' skills not good anymore? Why is there not even a single hair on the floor of the shop?" When I finally caught Carl coming to the barber shop, Vicky's eyes lit up and she started speaking. "Hey, why aren't you smiling? Are you naturally not the smiling type? Where's your girlfriend? Isn't she with you recently? Or did you two have a fight? I've prepared a firecracker with 30,000 pops. If you two break up, I'll set it off." "I won't set it off if you just had a fight. By the way, where are your connections? Why haven't they come to recharge cards for your parents?" Carl looked at me with a dark face. "Teresa, is this really interesting?" I pouted. "It's quite interesting. After all, I gave $100,000. I should come here and see you perform some shows. Right. For example, watch your mother change her attitude and watch your father lose face. Oh, right. I'm going to sue your family. You have to return the $100,000 and the money my friends recharged. My friends haven't even been to your shop once." Carl was so angry that he turned around and slammed the door as he left. And Sandra never showed up again. After all, she also realized that Carl's family didn't have any money. But my PPT had its effect. There were too many rumors about her in the school. Even though the school contacted me to delete the post quickly, many people still took screenshots and spread them privately. Not long after, I heard people discussing that Sandra had suspended her studies. After Sandra suspended her studies, she broke up with Carl. Even though Carl was good-looking, what she wanted was not just his appearance. So she quickly found another rich guy. Unfortunately, the rich guy had a wife, and she was beaten up. The reason for her suspension of studies changed from psychological reasons to physical reasons. She tried to gain something but ended up losing even more. And even her face was disfigured. Fortunately, they returned the money on their own without going to court. I didn't know why. Maybe they thought they were in the wrong and couldn't win the lawsuit. After graduating, I never saw Carl again. Carl's family's shop was gone too. I didn't know if Carl's family had moved out. It's worth mentioning that Vicky asked me if I wanted to have my myopia corrected. Otherwise, why couldn't I see people clearly and chose someone who wanted to freeload off me? Damn it. Later, I saw Carl again at his wedding. I went to the hotel to meet a business partner. In the lobby, I saw Carl in a wedding suit. He looked much more haggard and didn't have the gentle demeanor he had in college at all. What surprised me the most was that he actually married Sandra in the end. After all, she was a junior from our school and in the same department as me. I naturally didn't refuse to attend. Carl had achieved some success and made some money. But then he met Sandra again. When Sandra found out that Carl was prosperous again, she immediately had ideas. But at that time, she was pregnant with someone else's child. And Carl didn't know. When Carl found something was wrong, the two families had already gotten engaged. But since getting engaged to Sandra, Carl had been having bad luck. He kept losing money. At first, Sandra was unwilling to give up. She thought Carl really had the business acumen and gave him her savings. But in the end, Carl even lost the savings of his parents, and he couldn't get back on his feet. And Sandra, who had lost both money and the person she thought she could rely on, was also unwilling to leave Carl because she had invested too much in this relationship. She clung to Carl tightly. So the two of them still stepped into the marriage hall, but they both had ulterior motives. I didn't know what those motives were. When Sandra got out of the wedding car, she saw me, but she didn't recognize me, because I was dressed maturely, which was completely different from my style in college. Moreover, I was wearing a small hat. Later, I got married. Sandra and Carl got divorced. They made a big scene. Carl's mother got sick from anger caused by Sandra and had a stroke. Carl couldn't get back on track either. It was hard not to know about their messy situation. Sometimes I wondered if Sandra hadn't said, "Senior, can I invite you to a meal?" At that time, would I still be being exploited by that ungrateful person without realizing it? The end.